My boss is a tuck your shirt in Nazi, among other things, so I found a loophole in the dress code where I don't have to tuck in my shirt. What things have you done, by the book, just to piss off your boss? Story 1. When I was working at an Office Max about 10 years ago, I was the only employee who didn't smoke. Needless to say, everyone in the building took a 15-minute smoke break 2 to 3 times a shift, and I got quiet. One day, I asked the manager if I could have a clean air break, and he was confused. I explained that since smokers can have their 15-minute breaks 2 to 3 times a shift, I should be able to step outside and do the same without having to smoke. Irked my manager, but he knew he had to let me to avoid any discrimination. Story 2. Not really my boss, but my school principal, which was really like a boss to me as a kid. I was at an Opus Dei school, so the nuns were pretty fucking strict, and I hated the fucking salads they gave us. I found multiple ways to hide the food because you can't throw food when there are millions of people starving. Until one day I just went with the tray half full to dump it all. The nun went ballistic and I just said, "I'm full. Gluttony is a sin," and threw it all. That got me in trouble. I was 9. Story 3. When I was in grade 4, pizza was sold at lunch for $1.50 a slice. I saw a business opportunity and went to the Little Caesars a stone's throw away from the school and bought 10 hot and ready $5 pizzas and sold the slices for $1, $1.25 on Friday. When the school told me I couldn't sell pizza on school property, I moved my office to my aunt's house, which was next door. So every day at lunch, the kids would walk over to the neighbor's front yard, buy pizza, and come back to school. I was making a tidy sum every day. Story 4. I used to work for the small town twice weekly newspaper. The editor, publisher, mayor, county commissioner, and a few other people were skimming tax dollars. When I confronted my boss about it, he told me that he'd blackball me if I said anything. So I went to the local television station, tipped them off, and they uncovered the story. When they won their awards, my name was added to the list of reporters. I still can't get a job as a journalist, but damn if it didn't feel good. Story 5. On the flip side, I'm the boss enforcing policy. When I took over the department, the old boss told me that the reason the place looked like crap was because when he asked a sales associate, base pay plus commission, to clean or put up stock, they claimed it wasn't in their job description. The main boss backed them up, calling it a technicality. I pulled out the description and read out other duties as assigned by the manager on the last line. 2 out of the 9 quit. My department is now clean and stock is always up. Sales are consistently up. I'm cool with that. Story 6. Not my story, but a coworker. Worked at a water park. Supervisor was a bitch who wouldn't let the lead guards at the top of the tallest slide in the park go to the bathroom. Guard at the top is radioing that he needs to take a shit, but she won't let him. Mind you, the lead guards are allowed to ride down every once in a while to make sure no tubes are stuck. Lead guard is about to shit his pants in front of a ton of guests, so he goes into the utility closet and shits in a bucket of cat litter we kept to clean up vomit. He then proceeds to ride the slide down to clean himself off and left the supervisor to clean up his bucket of shit. Story 7. Little background story. My boss is a huge douche. All he does all day long is walk around and make sure everyone has their shirt tucked in, and generally be a negative prick who everyone hates. So I come in to work on my birthday the other day, and my friend runs up to me and yells, "Cousin 420, happy birthday," right in front of my boss's office. He looks up and says, "Cousin 420. I'm thinking he's going to say happy birthday since he no doubt heard her. Instead, he said, "Yeah, go ahead and tuck your shirt in, okay?" And he does the hand signal like he's tucking in an imaginary shirt. So I say, "Okay, no problem. I just have to put my stuff down real quick and I'll take care of it." So I walk over to my desk, which takes approximately 7 seconds to get to. I go to put my stuff down, and as I am, he comes up behind me again and says, "Cousin, I said to tuck in your shirt." So I quickly tuck it in, and he's walking literally right by me. I say, "Sorry, I just had to put my stuff down first." And he walks by like I've never said a word. Immediately, I bust out my HR manual and check out the rule on tucked in shirts. Turns out you must tuck in all shirts except a Hawaiian short or Gayubera shirt. So I take my ass to Walmart and buy 10 of those fuckers and wear the most obnoxious Hawaiian looking shirt the next day. The second I walked in, He looked me up and down, glared, turned around, and walked away. When everyone asked why I was wearing such a ridiculous shirt, I told them about the loophole. And now half of my office is wearing Hawaiian shirts, and it's driving my boss crazy. All within the guidelines outlined by company policy. So, Reddit, what ways have you been able to stick it to the man by playing by their rules? Story 8. While I was in the Navy, it was recommended that I get an extensive surgery on my ankle. My command felt that I didn't deserve a bunch of time off for a surgery, so they said they would approve it, but none of the convalescent leave. They refused to sign any paperwork. First thing I did was hit them with the regulations stating that they were required to respond to all requests within a certain amount of time. 3 days, I think. They responded with a no. So then I had a Navy legal draw up paperwork with accordance to regulations that my command would be responsible for 100% of my medical care if they did not abide by doctor's orders. I then let them know that that would mean all of my medical care would be handled by civilians and the command would be responsible for paying the bill out of their budget. They approved my surgery, convalescent leave, and convalescent leave extension. Story 9. At a former workplace, the dress code was changed. Men were no longer allowed to wear shorts. Women could wear skirts. I started wearing a kilt because skirts are okay in the rule book. Same thing happened at my school. Several guys wore kilts for a few days, then all on the same day, about half the guys in the whole school wore skirts. Lady skirts. It was wonderful. Story 10. When I worked at Best Buy, the dress code was black shoes, pants, belt, and tucked-in blue shirt. Never wore a belt nor tucked my shirt in because as a chubster, while nailing and organizing DVDs on the bottom shelf, shirt comes untucked, and the belt cuts into my belly. First world problems, huh? Anyway, my boss would constantly freak out on me for not having my shirt tucked in, and finally got on my case for not wearing a belt either. So I checked the dress code, found it said belt if there are belt loops on the pants, or something. So I found an X-Acto knife and cut off my belt loops. The next morning when I come in, and she says, "Where's your belt?" I grinned at her and said, "Where's my belt loops?" and gave her the biggest shit-eating grin I could muster. One of my finest moments. Story 11. Not work-related, but school. In high school, I wore a freecondoms.com t-shirt to school. I was called down to the principal's office after 3 to 4 hours. My cool teachers thought it was awesome in the AM classes, and was told I was promoting abhorrent behavior. I posited that I was in fact trying to prevent unwanted pregnancies. I lost my fight and was told I had to leave if I did not have another t-shirt. Rather than leaving, I put a sticky note over the M in condoms and spent the rest of the day harassing faculty about fantastic lakeside condos that I was giving away for free. Story 12. You can't have a beer in the front seat of your car, so I went ahead and replaced the front seat with a back seat. Story 13. Used to work at a TV station. Absolutely awful management and horrible bosses. Complained about it to friends all the time. Someone even asked me on Facebook about my job and I would reply, but I knew I could get fired for speaking ill of the company. So I read the HR handbook and found out, as long as I don't specifically name the company, I can't be fired for it. So about a month later, I realized I can't take this shit anymore and post on Facebook how terrible my job is, never mentioning the company by name. They fired me a day later. I gladly walk out of the building and into a lawyer's office, got $17,800, my yearly salary, seriously. Feels good, man. We sincerely appreciate you taking the time to watch our YouTube video. If you find our content helpful and enjoyable, please click the subscribe button to stay updated on any new videos we share in the future. Thank you once again, and we hope to see you in our next upcoming videos.